Hi everyone, my name is Lynn and today I'll be crafting with the new Spellbinders July 2022 club kits. Today I am crafting with the small die of the month, large die of the month, clear stamp and die of the month, and the embossing folder of the month. Later on I'll have a separate video featuring the APG die of the month. Here's a quick recap of the 4 cards that I'll be making, and as per my flip videos, there will be one flat, one layered, one interactive, and one pop-up card. I'm time-stamping this video, so if there is one out of the 4 that you want to see in particular, and that's all you have time to watch, then hover over the timeline, and then you can sort of just jump straight to that card. I'm starting off with my flat card, and initially what I was thinking was I was going to stamp out a background of lemons and strawberries because you get the stamps for both, and they come as sort of a layered stamp. So you've got I guess it could be an orange slice, it could be a lemon, it could be lime, but you have the solid stamp to fill in the color, and then you have the outline stamp to give it the additional detail. And that's the same for the strawberries. The strawberries come as the berry itself and the stem, each of those having their own 2-part stamp. But then I realized that the stamp set also has 3 smaller circle, and they are imperfect circles. All of the solid circle stamps are imperfect. And so I sort of did an about face and changed my design direction last minute and decided to stamp out my own polka dot background pattern, and it's so much fun. So I keep pulling out my swatch book so that I can reference the various colors just so that since I'm just doing it straight onto my card base, I don't want to accidentally kind of pick a color that I don't think is gonna look good in the end. So this is sort of a, one-shot deal situation. And with my background complete, what I'm going to do is stamp out the popsicle. So you get this nice solid stamp, and I'm trying to gradually build up color because what I'm doing is using 2 shades of green actually. And this way I can kind of get a little bit of shadow, a little bit of depth, a little bit of texture. So that's why I'm not going for that perfect solid impression, which is kind of hard to do with the mini ink cubes that I have also, because this is it's a nice size stamp. And then the actual popsicle stick has, again, 2 parts to it. You've got the solid color, and then you have the stamp that gives you that wood grain kind of detailing. So I've stamped those out. If you get the clear stamp and coordinating die club kit, then you have the coordinating dies that cut out all of the main images and all of the sentiments as well, which is really awesome. I'm really actually enjoying having dies that cut out the sentiment instead of having to always just kind of stamp it onto maybe like a little strip that I then kind of trim down. It's kind of nice actually to kind of have that coordinating die, and it just creates this nice little bubble. And plus I die cut a second time to have a drop shadow layer as well. So that's my flat card, and super fun, really easy background to create. Next, this is the embossing folder of the month. So it's a really nice size, 5.5 by 8.5, so you can emboss backgrounds for multiple size cards. And what I did was, this design in particular, I really thought lends itself well to do partial embossing and to use up scraps. So what I did, because it's got a nice geometric pattern that all runs kind of in one direction. So I thought it would be fun to just emboss different colors and then piece them together. And some of the patterns are um, higher and some are shorter. So I'm getting a lot of variation because I can cut into some of these and make taller strips, and then some of them I can cut down and make shorter strips. So really really fun, and then I'm gonna just have some fun piecing these patterns back together. So then you can create different patterns from how they have it originally laid out just by cutting them into different strips like I'm doing. And the patterns themselves, they kind of remind me of sort of tapestry. And so I picked some colors that I thought reminded me of different fabric patterns that I've seen. And I've just got some plain washi tape on the back here to stick them all together temporarily so that I can get it to the ultimate size and configuration that I want. So I originally trimmed everything to 5.5 so that it would stretch across my full A2 size card, which is going to be a landscape top folding, so 5.5 wide by 4.25 tall. But then I ended up wanting to have a little bit of that white border, and so I trimmed down all of my panels, which is easier to do when you have it sort of temporarily taped together from the back. And here I am using the APG die of the month, but not the main component of it. I'm just using the sentiment. I thought I was going to use hello there, but then in the end I decided to just use the word hello. And then this die set also comes with, it's a really cool leaf corner, so you can use it to decorate a corner, and then you've got some floral dies as well. And I thought I was actually going to use both the flowers and the leaves, but then in the end I thought that just having the leaves would be enough. I didn't want to add the flowers to it because it's already such a sort of geometric, it doesn't seem like a hugely floral design, but I thought the leaves would complement well. And what I've done is I've just trimmed down the leaves so that I have separate sprigs, and that way I can reassemble them to be the shape and design that I want. So that's how I always kind of approach anything floral. I like to just kind of snip, trim, and that way I can get it to the configuration that I want. And also that way the die cuts don't feel so like obviously repetitive. They actually look a little bit more organic and different when you trim it a little. So that's the other reason for doing that. Okay, so this card and my pop-up card are my two favorites from this card making session. So the large die of the month features this really awesome truck. So now you can make this a ice cream truck, or as you can maybe already kind of tell, mine is going to be a taco truck. And it comes with separate dies that give you all the decorative trim elements to the truck and to dress up the truck, like this banner or awning. And this awning is even a little bit of an interactive element because there's a little glue tab that and a slot through your truck that you can slip that glue tab through, and then that becomes like a little flip up interaction. But it also just gives it depth. It just gives it a little bit of dimension and something interesting, and that little spark of realism as well. I've chosen some really bright colors because I think taco trucks are usually, the ones I've seen anyways, are usually pretty fun and bright, and I miss food trucks, I gotta say. When I used to work in an office, that was one of my favorite things to do for lunch was just to, especially when I worked downtown, just to go hit up the taco truck, which only came because they every day of the week they were in a different location, so they were only by our area once a week, and so that was always really fun. Those were good memories. So now I'm gonna assemble my taco, which I think is so much fun. You've got you can put some ground beef in there. You can put some lettuce and tomato. You could probably cut up your own shapes and just tuck them in there to suggest different food elements. And with the lettuce, I'm gonna add some extra layers and kind of trim some of my lettuce as well, just to get different shapes, get some fullness going on there. And the I'm just gonna cut some extra layers as well, just to try to even up the depth, because I've got a lot of layered cardstock at the top there. So at the bottom, I wanted to kind of add some extra cardstock to level that out. And unfortunately, during the filming of this, I did lose bits and pieces of footage as my camera just automatically shut off, and I didn't realize it and kept crafting. But I think you'll see the gist of most of this. So this is going to be a double slider, and if you don't have it like a ribbon slider die or a specialty die, this is the easiest way to create a double slider. You have one panel that's going to be your main mechanism piece, and then 4 strips that essentially create rails for your ribbon to glide between. And so those 4 strips just need to be taller than that main mechanism piece that you cut out. So that's just a general, if you want to make a double slider to fit any size, any shape, those are going to be your basic elements. One main panel rectangle, 4 strips that are going to be taller than your main panel if your double slider is running top to bottom, or wider, so you can turn this 90 degrees and have your ribbon slider run left to right. And the key, those strips, those 4 strips just need to, I made these at 3/8 of an inch, but you can make them whatever you want. I think 3/8 is a good width, so that you can get some good adhesive behind there for a nice good stick, and it's not so wide that you don't have enough space for your ribbon slider. And then you need some soft plastic to run as a conveyor belt in between those 4 strips. So with the ribbon slider, you just want to have this loosely attached so that it moves really freely. You don't want a tight wrap around your double slider mechanism piece. Then I've attached my pull tab, to that, and so all of this mechanism is cut from 120-pound heavyweight cardstock so that it's nice and strong. Your pull tab is not going to feel kind of bendy as you pull it. And if you don't often craft with 120-pound, I have a lot of it because that's what I make my card bases out of, but you can always double up on your cardstock. So if you're using maybe 60-pound or 80-pound, you can always double up on your cardstock and give that pull tab some extra strength. Then what I've done is I attached a little bit of cardstock to the back of my taco so that it extends it downward, because I want the entire taco to be visible above the truck. So it needs to run a little bit, it needs extra cardstock in order to have something to attach to the ribbon. And my pull tab is on one side, and I'm gluing that side down to my truck first. the more you exercise your any sort of interactive element, the smoother it's going to go. And as you anchor pieces down and they are stationary where they need to be stationary, that also helps you to preview and operate the mechanism. So with the pull tab cut down to length, the corners rounded, that anchors at least that portion of my double slider. So then as I figure out the positioning for my taco, I at least have that element anchored down, and it just makes it easier to kind of temporarily tack it down as you see me doing here and figure out positioning, because what I want is for the pull tab, when it's fully pulled down, I want the taco completely visible. So that's why I'm pulling it down all the way, fully extending it all the way down the pull tab. And now I'm positioning the taco so that I see just the taco and not the bottom portion. And then when I push that pull tab all the way back up to its starting position, I just want to make sure that the taco is completely hidden. So that's how I sort of adjusted for that. And then this is a big jump in the process, because this is where I lost a good chunk of footage. But here is where you can see I've placed, where it's pink, this is where I've placed some adhesive. Because my taco does have a lot of layers of cardstock, I'm using multiple layers and thicknesses of adhesive. So on those on the strips that are serving as the rails for our ribbon, I've made sure to only put adhesive on that bottom portion where it won't inhibit the movement of the taco. And then the other half of the truck, I used enough foam to build up to the same thickness as our mechanism piece. That way the truck, as much as possible, is going to feel nice and level with with everything else. And then I initially wasn't too worried about the pull tab hanging off the bottom of the card base, but then I thought I don't really need it to be that long. I think you can easily still grab it, even without a thumb notch. And so I decided to just cut it a little bit shorter and punch the rounded corners, and then I'll go ahead and stamp out I always leave this to last, I don't know why, but I do almost always remember to at least stamp a little bit of a direction or instruction, so that the card recipient knows there's something to do here. You can pull on this. And even though my foam has adhesive on it already, I do like to dot on a little bit of liquid adhesive to really make sure I get a nice permanent firm stick. And then, of course, burnishing all of that down. I have another sentiment from the Clear Stamp and Die of the Month that is sunshine and good times. And with the embossing folder of the sun rays on the top there, I did ink up my folder before embossing. That way I get the two shades of yellow. And it is yellow cardstock inked up with like a darker yellow ink. And so this is just so much fun. I love how bright and colorful it is, and I just love how it's a little bit of a surprise as to what kind of food truck it is. Is it going to be an ice cream truck? Is it going to be a taco truck? You don't know until you pull the tab. And then this will be my final card. So I already have a sort of sunset over water panel, but I need two of them, and I'm going to try to get them to match up with each other as much as possible. So I thought, since I have two, it's nice for you to kind of see where I'm headed and then see how I got there. I'm using Distress Oxide inks where I have them. Honestly, I wish I only had oxide inks, but when I started to buy these inks, I didn't understand completely the difference between the oxide inks and the just regular distress inks. And now I know, because the oxide inks tend to blend a lot better. Most of them anyways. Some of mine, I don't know if it's a dry ink pad, but it doesn't always blend very well. So what I do, my trick is to lay down an ink that I know blends really well, and then use a distress ink or the real color that I want over top of that, and that usually helps. And because these are distress inks and they are water reactive, I painted in, just with plain water, some clouds, and I dabbed it off with a clean paper towel to lift some of that color. On the bottom portion here, I'm going to use pretty much the same color. So I have Squeezed Lemonade to be the reflection of the water. Spiced Marmalade was the orange that I used. I only use, I don't think I used it here. I used the lavender, but more just so that I can get some good, a good layer of distress ink, or distress oxide ink, so that I could get the true color purple that I wanted, which I think is the Concord. And then for the blues, same thing. I have blue print sketch, and I have, but I did put down a little bit of the lavender beneath that, so that, because for whatever reason, my blueprint sketch, it's a little bit splotchy. And so just laying down a nice foundational layer of ink helps to get a nice smooth surface foundation for that to glide over. And then this is just some watered down white acrylic paint, and I painted on some lines for the water portion, and then I painted just a little bit onto the clouds, just to have a little bit of extra depth there and to brighten those a little bit. And then I'm gonna emboss my sentiment, which the stamp did come from the Clear Stampin' Die of the Month, and then I'm going to white heat emboss it, and keep the card front really super simple. And so that's it for the card front. That was directly onto my card base. So I think this by itself is actually quite a nice card. So you could stop there and have a really nice, perfectly flat one layer card. But with my second panel, what I'm going to do is attach it to the inside of my card base, the top portion. This is a top folding card. I've got some, this is actually like sort of cheap construction paper, but I have a pack of this in different skin tones. This particular shade looked good for sort of a sandy beach, and then I took some walnut stain distress oxide ink, and I just kind of brushed over the top of it, just to give some different color and dimension to my beach. And with the small die of the month, I've already die cut and assembled the really adorable, I don't have anything like this. At some point in my prep work, one of the hands from the arms tore off, so I had to die cut that a second time. But you get the body, you get a swimsuit, and then you get two arms, so you can kind of play with different positions. And again, this is from that really inexpensive construction paper, skin tone construction paper, but a little bit of a darker skin tone. And so it's kind of thin. That's why I ended up doubling up, as you can see here, the arms, and the body already has multiple layers between 2 layers of the body and then 1 layer of the swimsuit. The die set also includes a few dies that will create this sort of striped beach towel. So you have one that's going to be the entire towel with that forced perspective, which I thought was really cool. And then you get a separate die that cuts out the stripes, and then another die that cuts out that sort of fringe edge. And then now I'm just taking a scrap piece of 120-pound paper, and this is going to be my pop-up stand. So I've got about 3/8 of an inch on one end. That's going to be a glue tab, and I'm going to hide that glue tab under this beach towel. So I'm going to cut a slit here, just wide enough to tuck in my glue tab. And then I just figured out, here's where I'm placing that glue on that small 3/8 of an inch. And I think this pop-up stand here is 3/8 of an inch wide. And then I just decided, how tall can I make this stand so that it's still hidden by the woman who's sitting on the beach. That's how I determined the next section that I scored a line for. And then I decided, okay, how far away from the water do I want her sitting? So that's the next length. And then the final length is just needs to be long enough to glue to the top of your to your card. And what I'm doing is lining. So I inked up the bottom of this glue tab because, maybe if somebody's peering around, looking, inspecting it, they might see that. Here's the glue tab that I've left. And that's basically matching the height of the girl, pretty much the woman. And I'm putting that glue tab right up to the score line, but not crossing it. It doesn't have to be super snug against it, but you just want to make sure that you're not crossing over that. And then here I fold everything nice and flat, and I've put adhesive on my beach towel. That's the portion that's going to get glued down to the bottom of my card, and I folded it flat, and then I'll fold my card base closed. That way it's just going to magically find the correct location, and you'll know that it's going to fold completely flat when you go to put this into your envelope. And you can see at this angle why I inked up the bottom of my pop-up stand, because that blue is against the blue of the ocean. And as you saw earlier, I just put a scrap piece of that same beachy color on the top. You can see that here, because that little stretch is running across the beach. And so it just is these like nice finishing touches so that you can't really hide the pop-up stand completely, but you can at least camouflage it a little bit with your scene. The die set also comes with dies that cut out this cute little sort of beach bag and little flip-flops. And so I thought that I was thinking that I might stand this up, but then I thought, well, more realistically, this is just going to be laying on the beach next to you. So I laid it down flat instead of standing it up. And then that way the woman is the only thing that's standing up upright, which I just love. This might be my favorite card. It's a toss-up between this one and the taco truck, but here's a final recap of all 4 cards. This is my flat card where I inked up a nice, fun, sort of dotty background. Then I have a layered card where I've used the embossing folder and just embossed some scraps of strips of cardstock and then mix and match them. So the pattern isn't even the exact same pattern that is laid out on the folder. Here's an interactive card. This is a double slider card. So when you pull down, the taco pops up. And this truck is from the large die of the month, which also has an ice cream, so you could make an ice cream truck if you wanted instead. And then my last card is my pop-up card, which features the small die of the month, and this has some elements that help you create this lovely beach scene with this woman from the back wearing this cute sun hat. The word smile is a die that you can cut into, and then you still have all of those letters that you can use, and then there's a second sentiment. You can also use hello instead of smile. I hope that you enjoyed my cards today. Remember, I also have the APG die of the month, but that will be in a separate video. Thanks again for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.